Okay, so today's coffee talk is sponsored anonymously in honor of our very own Shira Roth.
She's not even here.
The occasion of her becoming a 12th bat mitzvah after her conversion. It's Mazdov. And we are on page Yud Ches in the Sefer in Hebrew, and in the English Sefer. I have one for you, don't worry. In the English Sefer, we're on page 26.
I wanted to say I started a minhag since I moved here. I think that as soon as I make Havdalah, the first thing I do when I go walk to put the candle away, I put new candles in my Shabbos candles, so it's like
very sweet. Get ready. Waiting. You're preparing for the next Shabbos.
And that's what he was talking about, like waiting, and that's like something I just started.
That's doing. Nice. It's nice. Some people like the candles, Motzei Shabbos, from the Havdalah candle, like to have continuous ore in their house. I've seen that.
Like all week they're lighting Shabbos.
No, they just do it that night. They just light Malva Malka candles to have light from the Havdalah. Everybody has different. There are different customs.
You do? I don't put them in there, but I have these sticks that you have to take the spring out and put the candle inside. And
so you set it up.
So I set it up.
That's so you.
Okay, so we're on again Yud Ches and page 26. Okay, Zachor Yom HaShabbat LaKadisho. Remember the day of Shabbos to sanctify it. We're going to be talking about the joy when Shabbos leaves. Simcha b'yetzias Shabbos. Sounds like a strange koteret. So let's talk about this. Amar Rabbi Chanina. A person should set up his table on Motzei Shabbos. So that way we walk out of Shabbos in a kavadik way. You're not running away from Shabbos. You're accompanying the Shabbos. As if when the king was leaving your city, you would walk with the king out of your city. You also have to do that with Motzei Shabbos. And it's paskined in halacha like this in the Shulchan Aruch. Here's the quote: we're supposed to accompany Shabbos out with joy. We even set up with, out of the honor of Shabbos, a seuda kashem shemalavim melech b'tziaso, as we accompany Shabbos as it leaves us. What is this simcha that we're experiencing on Motzei Shabbos? The time when Shabbos ends and we accompany the Malka, that we have to be in pain that the Shabbos is leaving us. Who's rejoicing when Shabbos is leaving? We're sad. Imagine we're actually codifying the mad rush to the devices and to the video games and the movies and the things that we're doing. It's like we're celebrating the leaving of Shabbos. What kind of joy is that? One of the Slonim Rebbes, Motzei Shabbos, he would hand his wife, very nice, money, so she should be able to spend money in a week. 1 week he didn't have money to give her. She started to cry. Yehudi Tzaddik, the Rebbe who was a great tzaddik, Moram Me'am, Lohele Afilu Al Daito Shi Bocha Mishum Shalonos No Kesef. Or Hayalo Shabechi Shloya Kach Shabbos Yatsa. He thought that for sure she's crying because Shabbos is over. Pone Lea Efo Vamar Maduad Bocha. Why are you crying, my dear? Ki Shabbos Yotzav Shabbos Altifki. Shavua Bo Shabbos Tavo Shuv. Shabbos will come again. Haya Aleinu Livchos Shabbos Yotzas. The Ilu Chazal Hora Lanu Halach Lamaisel Vosa Shabbos Hamalka Mitoch Simcha. To me, Simcha Mazu Asa. What is the purpose of this joy? Why do we have to experience Simcha? Says the Shulchan Aruch and Simin Shin. Says on Makabel Shabbos Mizoch Simcha U Shabbos Yotzas Milad Mosav Simcha, that we dance out the Shabbos. Like the Shabbos is gone. Remember when I was young, there was this B-rated movie. I thought it was kind of funny, but it was called Problem Child. I remember we saw it. It was it was about a kid who was like a troubled kid, and when he finally leaves one of the orphanages, so they send balloons into the air and they all celebrate the kid is gone. Yay! So why are we celebrating? And the Chazal actually have the image when the Jews sin right after Kabbalas HaTorah. that it's like children running out of the schoolhouse when the bell rings and you're charging out, right? We talked about that imagery as well. So why is the Shulchan Aruch saying they're supposed to experience joy the moment the Shabbos leaves? So this could be understood based on a mashal, the gashmias of ruchnius, both in physical and spiritual understanding. He has a makolet. Pesach arrives, Motzei Pesach comes, Motzei Pesach, who lo mitzdoer, and he is not troubled, he's not upset, because shkein kisa of tafuchim, Pesach ba avar, v'shir bracha mecharav. Pesach came, it left, and now he has bracha. But even a Jew who doesn't have a store, Pesach over, he has afterwards the bread of emuna, nama das vasa, emuna rofua l'chol machosim. There's a spiritual benefit to having gone through a Pesach. B'motzi Yom Kippur, hasimchi hi al otzos Yom Kippur, hishir lanu. After Yom Kippur, we're rejoicing because the treasuries of Yom Kippur still are in our hands. What we've accomplished in Yom Kippur is still with us. You know, there's an inevitable depression that happens, that Marav right Yom Kippur, where we kind of revert back at some point for a minute. There's life, there's sustenance for the whole year. When the king arrives, and then he's getting up to leave. So after, of course, when the king arrives and he's going to leave, you're happy that he gave you these great gifts that he brought with him, and he made us wealthy as a result. There also are gifts that we reflect upon having received after Shabbos arrives and leaves. When Shabbos comes, so we're happy to call the Shabbos. And then all the blessings we get to receive when Shabbos arrives, when Shabbos leaves, look what we had. We had such a great weekend. It's the best. We're going to sing, we're going to dance, because this was the best 25 hours of my life. And then Shabbos Haisal Itano b'meshech esrim v'arba shalosh. Shabbos was for 24 hours. We're in a different state of mind now, having gone through this amazing process, and now look at who we are now. We're a post-Shabbos Jew. You can't compare who we are now to who we were before Shabbos. That's the state of the joy. It's even possible the simcha that we experience now is even greater than the simcha that we had before Shabbos, because now we've gone through the process of uplifting ourselves so thoroughly.
I have a practical question. I forgot actually about malach malka. Is there a specific? Are you supposed to eat it directly after Shabbos? Because I find I'm not usually hungry like the minute we just ate.
Yeah. So I mean, you can wait a little bit. You can wait. You don't need moment to moment Shabbos ends to start eating. You wait hour or so. Yeah.
And you're supposed to wash. It's supposed to be like a full meal.
So, the best way to do it is to make a suda. You can make malak with other things. If you don't have bread, you're also okay. Just like shal shudas. Shal shudas, you also, if you don't have bread, you can have mazonos, you have fruit, you have Tivrei Torah according to the Balatanya. But
with two challahs?
No, I don't think we're makbid for that. But the shal shudas nourishes the loose bone. The loose bone is the part of the body that's never destroyed. So when Nebuchadnezzar tried to grind down the Jewish bones to see how he could pulverize the Jew to nothing, it was a bone he couldn't destroy. Some say it's the tailbone, right? And some say it's the bottom of the ear. But the Malav Malka, we nourish that part, because that's the part from which Tchias HaMesim, when God revives the dead, he's going to regenerate us from that part. Yeah.
About last week, I shared with you the part that I like it is when Hashem say that he pays for, if he leaves the money for what you are going to do on Shabbos, and we are ragged. So it's so beautiful, and now it's saying like that.
Yeah. Baruch Shekivant, yeah. All right.
And another thing is, it so says when Shabbos is living, and when we are sitting, honey, and one of the things that I said right now, what's going on?
So Dvarim Elu Nichonim Gam B'Yachad Shabbos Kodesh Megia. This thing is true when it comes to Shabbos as well. Habrachim Yuchedet Shemevia Ima B'Shabbos. What is the special bracha that Shabbos brings? Tani's bonin. Let's understand. Mano Mitzapim Shabbos Tavit Lana. What do we long for that Shabbos really brings us? Shar Moedim, other holidays, Tshuva, Pachos, Yosef, Berurah. It's pretty clear. Be'erev Rosh Hashanah Yesh Lanu Pachos Yira Shamayim Mimal Sheyesh Lanu L'achar Rosh Hashanah. On all other holidays, right? Erev Rosh Hashanah, we have less fear of heaven than that which we have before Rosh Hashanah. Clearly, our sense of godliness in the world, his dominion has increased, has been enhanced over the course of Rosh Hashanah. Erev Sukkot Yesh Lanu Pachos Simcha. Sukkot is the holiday of Simcha. It's Man Simcha Seinu. We have less Simcha before Sukkot than we have afterwards. What is the special bracha of Shabbos exactly? Right? What is that thing? This intangible item that we're saying we're noticeably better off. Oh, what made you better off? Because you're not distracted. You don't have a cell phone. Okay, so what exactly have you? If someone asks you, why are you a better person after Shabbos than beforehand? You can't describe it, can you? Like, what is it? There's nothing I can say. Like, what exactly is that point that makes you happier and enjoy? Yeah. So what would that be?
Well, as someone who was not Shomer Shabbos for most of their life, I think what it brings to you, at least me, let's just use me, is I think if you are not Shomer Shabbos, you lose some sense of community because you don't see people. It's just a different milieu. I think that is the beauty in the Simcha of Shabbos is that we are a community. So
certainly true for us. We're lucky we're in a community.
Yeah.
What about a person who keeps Shabbos and they live on their own?
I think it's like you said, distraction. I think it's a time of self-reflection and getting closer to Hashem.
And if I don't own a cell phone, if I don't know anything, if I kept Shabbos, I don't know, 500 years ago, and the rest of my life looked almost the same as it did.
Just the spiritualness.
Yeah. So there's something. Yeah. Well, what do you think it is?
With this, what you say, where you keep you alone, if your love with Hashem is like a really with a community,
okay,
it's a wonderful thing because you have that relationship that they straight with Hashem.
So a relationship with Hashem. So my question is, we're talking about items here that bring you closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? It could be there's the simcha that is associated with the holiday. It could be right food and wine, all that stuff. That's Sukkot. It could be there's a sense of fear of heaven that I've now worked on for 24 hours. But what about my relationship with Hashem has changed specifically, right? Let's get down to the details here. It's easy to speak in general and say, well, I feel great, or I feel spiritual, I feel community, but what exactly is that tangible? So he's going to now deepen the question a little more.
I would say through tefillah and through learning, because you have more time to learn, more time to do tefillah, you have a better, relationship with Hashem.
So a relationship with Hashem there, meaning I've occupied more of my time and focus exclusively on Hashem. Yeah. Okay.
You have your meals, you have studying, time to focus. You don't imagine the joy that Hashem gives you when you have, but like really,
All right, let's deepen the question. Namek Yoser, near Shoshele Be'etzem, Ma'i Shabbos. Real question we're asking is, what is Shabbos? Kol Moed, Shani Yodem Ma'imu. So we know what every Moed is. Pesach is Cheres Me'ei Zahara. He's giving the Kabbalistic reasoning. Pesach is the holiday of freedom. Freedom from what? Well, freedom from chametz, but on a spiritual level, it's freedom from the Yetzer Hara. Chametz represents the Yetzer Hara. It rises, it's arrogant, it's impetuous, it's anger, it's all that stuff. Good. Shavuos is Matan Torah. We celebrate the reception of the Torah. Sukkot is Man Simchasenu. It's called the time of happiness. Literally is a time of rejoicing in everything we do. Rosh Hashanah is time of Yiras Shamayim, right? Or Malchus. Mayim Huzos Yom Shabbos. So Tshuva, the answer is Shabbos Yomo Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. It is God's day. Atah kidashta et Yom HaShabbos l'shimcha. You made Shabbos holy for you. The whole thing's about Hashem. Shabbos Yiloshin Shvisa is God rested. Kol mafsik. Everything stopped. As niskav Hashem levada b'yamahu. And then on that day, God remained alone. And therefore, we are alone with God on that day of Shabbos. So Shabbos, let's start off, according to this theory, is the day in which we are celebrating Hashem. The three foundations of Judaism are Emunah, faith, Ava, love, and Yira, and fear. Hem keneged Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And we know they represent the three pillars of the Avos. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Umaisa, El Shlosh mitzvahs min Torah. Yeshna mitzvah lahamin v'Hashem. There's a mitzvah to have emunah v'Hashem, faith in God. Ladas Rambam nilmed as mitzvah me'anochi Hashem l'kech. We learn this from the mitzvah of I am Hashem your God. Mitzvahs Ava, it's Hashem, ba'after Hashem l'kecha. U'mitzvahs l'yare mimenu v'yaresim l'kecha. And you have to fear for Hashem. Where were we supposed to fulfill the mitzvah of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem? Where do we get these mitzvahs of Av and Yira? Which the Rambam says are two mitzvahs. Some of the Mamani mitzvahs don't count Av and Yira, love and fear of God as mitzvahs. The Rambam believes they are they're general mitzvahs klalios, they're general mitzvahs. So he says, Lamito shel davar shela ze'enu shela klal. It's not a question. Be'etzem ein shum koshi lahamin v'Hashem. It's not hard to believe in Hashem le'avo, so yos yarim menu kishinivar. It's not hard to have emunah, to love and fear God, as it says. Emunah b'Hashem. How can you not believe in Hashem? Fluorescent. You walk into a room and you see a fluorescent bulb. He was writing when fluorescent bulbs were all the rage. So no one told him about LEDs. I'm saying, wow, the new type of bulb. Where did the light bulb come from? It doesn't cover any place. Hello, what do you mean it didn't come from anywhere? The light, someone put it up there, someone developed it. What do you mean it didn't come from anywhere? There's no origin. When you look at something and you see it comes from somewhere, you know that there's an origin. Fine. So the notion of emunah is an obvious idea. It's much harder to be a person who's not a ma'amin in Hashem than to be a ma'amin Hashem, because you always ask, where's that come from? What's the source of X, Y, and Z? And as you go back far enough, even before the aliens came, there's a God who created aliens, right? So every theory you have, I will tell you that there's a God who preempts that theory. You go outside, you see the sun, the moon, stars, inayim, moach, you have eyes, you have a brain. All these things, they don't even, you can't even comprehend them with the human mind. Masa is called, who made all this? It's the famous Medrash about Avram Avinu discovering God and asking who is the founder of this building. The David Melech al Vasham Behitilma, but Pashas Plia Das, many Niskavalo Chala La. I can't understand it. It's higher than my mind cannot comprehend. Ana Elech Meruchat Fana Mepanecha Evrach. Where do I how do I leave your ruach, your spirit, and how can I run away from your countenance, God? Im asak shamayim sham ata. If I go to heaven, there you are. V'etzia sha'ol hinach. And if I descend to the depths, there you are. This beautiful kapitel in Tehillim and Kuf Lamed Tes describes how man, no matter how far he runs or falls, is always accompanied by God. There's even a chazal that said that Imo Noach B'Tzara, that when the pasuk says, "I'm with you in Tzara," that God accompanies us in Galus. As we travel through Galus, there He is with us. So that idea that you can't escape God, Hashem Yisparach nimtza b'chol makom, He's everywhere. Chazdol makifo tano, His kindness surrounds us b'chol rega mechayenu, all moments of our life. Okay, so we have the notion of emunah. Now, what about the notion of ahava, avas Hashem? How is it impossible not to love God? Imagine a Jew whose father is very wealthy. When that person needs to marry off his children, avivo merlo, al tidag, don't worry. Hedira alai. Yeah, I will. I'll take care of the apartment. Exactly. Right. So now, when he says his son needs a car, buys the newest car for his child. He's a famous doctor with a renowned reputation. If some of his children or grandchildren are sick, they have a heart problem, so he heals them. The kids are called by a kolshi shimus oreres who poter chotzarach hu memale beofen miyadi, and he can fill every need right away, solve every problem. That's when you have a connection in high places. Hare Abba kazeh ovima v'snevish rotzim rakla anikla neshika v'chiba v'lomer lo ata kol kach tov. Father wants to tell him that everything's going to be okay. Someone said the challenge, told me yesterday that the challenge of children getting older is you don't love them any less, you just have less influence to actually help them and to influence them too. So the heartache is even greater as they get older because you realize that you cannot or they won't listen to your advice or counsel, or that you cannot impact them to the same extent. And that's where real heartache is. If you don't care about them, there's no heartache. It's when you know you love them just as much and can't do anything about it. But every parent who could do something would, of course, do it. Finances from Hashem, all success from Hashem, health from Hashem, children. Forgiveness on this parable. Shani Ola Alabama, Pitom Nofelat Leoznaim, Mishomer Oznaim Shili B'Makom. So he says he got up and he said that his ears fell off.
Yeah, speaker gets up to the podium and suddenly his ears fall off. Who keeps his ears in place?
Right, Mishomer Shili Yipol Lamishua Af. Someone has a nose. Hashem, He knows that we can live. Hashem, so how can you not love Hashem? He's doing everything for us. Okay. So these things are obvious. Yiras Hashem and fear of Hashem. How is it possible you won't fear heaven? Understand. Adam omed liad kiosk, right? Kiosk, right? And he buys a bottle of soda. Memul yeshno base mishugaim, and there's a house for people who are mentally ill. Vinay mishuga echad. Poretz misham. I don't know if the Hebrew language has a more sensitive term. But one crazy guy says mishuga echad poretz misham achutza. He runs outside. Shigaon nikar heitif, and you could recognize right away he's mad. Al panav eina boltos. You can see the mental illness. His hands are extended outward. Achutza. Uratz la'avro v'tzog b'chogocho. Al tishteh. Don't drink. Zera al. It's poison. Everyone's like drinking, right? Well, it's Coke. Coke is poison, but all right. And he's trying to run. And they quickly grab him. They put him back in a straitjacket. That imagery right there, okay? You're about to have a delicious cup of soda. Would you ever believe in that case that there's poison in the soda? No, of course not. This is the theme in one of my favorite movies, 12 Monkeys. But Brad Pitt plays a Meshuggah, but he's not really Meshuggah. He's got some sort of prophecy about the world falling apart. And Bruce Willis himself was sent back from the future to stop a plague. But they think he's also out of his mind. They send him into an asylum, and he's telling them where this thing is going to break. This plague is going to break into the world, and it's going to spread. But imagine like you're out of your mind, but you're not really out of your mind. You're sharing the truth, but nobody knows it. Nobody can believe you.
It happens to people who are brilliant and inventors and stuff. They say, "Oh, a little work."
Nobody takes them seriously.
Huh?
Nobody takes them seriously. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They see something and they see whatever it is. They see the future. They see the patterns, and they. Yeah. By the way, it's funny because one of my favorite books is also One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's interesting how I have all these themes in my favorite.
No, but that was a bad one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great movie, great book, right? Fantastic. Ken Casey book.
Yeah.
So do you have any reason to believe that this guy? No, right? So aval mishuma pitom lo mitchashek lo lishtos. But you know what? I'm not going to drink it. Mishal himself, you give a doubt about your water. Someone says, "Don't drink it; it's poison." All right, you won't drink it. Afilu echad lemillion, 1 in a million doubt. You're not going to touch it. Shulai yesh kan ra'al. Maybe there is poison. It's not worth it, right? Right? Even if you don't really know for sure if God is there, right? But if someone says maybe God doesn't want you doing that, and there's a little bit of you'll fear doing certain things, right? The most secular Jew is not going to eat on Yom Kippur. Why?
Unfortunately.
Well, it's not necessarily the case anymore, but there are many secular Jews who have Yirah Shamayim. They basically fear heaven. They don't love Hashem. They don't believe in Hashem, but they fear Hashem. He's explaining why Yira is a fundamental idea. That if someone said to you, out of a suffix, maybe you shouldn't eat today, it's Yom Kippur. Okay, you know what? Once a year, I'll take this serious and I'll be afraid. And maybe I'll believe it's true.
You sort of hedge your bets kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like just in case that there is a Hashem.
But how can you fear something that you don't believe in?
But they do believe in it. They're not expert. They obviously believe in it. The
I
heart of
think
hearts.
they truly don't believe
We all, when it comes down to, we'll hedge our bets and say, Olam Haba, okay. Yesh Gan Eden, there's a Gan Eden, there's a Gehenim. Ketzad Nitin. How can you not be a Yerushalayim? So what he's established in this paragraph was that the three sodos of life, which is Emunah B'Hashem, Avas Hashem, and Yiras Hashem, those three are mukhrach there. It's impossible not to understand the concept, and it's very easy to relate to those concepts. These are elementary ideas, right?
It seems odd though that Hashem wants us to fear. I wouldn't want my kids to fear me, rather respect me.
Well, yira is not fear; it's awe. Awe. It's a.
You don't mean like be afraid of what I will do to you.
We're not supposed to be, jattering our teeth in the corner and frightened, like someone's going to shoot us, God forbid. No, that's not. Your Shemayim is not this big machine gun in Shemayim. Your Shemayim means you have a sense of reverence that you're being watched. You know that there's schar ve'onesh, there's a reward, there's punishment, there's something coming at the end, and that there's a bigger picture here. That idea, that awareness, and that there are moments in which you wake up and say, "Wait a minute, hold on, what am I doing?" Yeah. Sometimes not. Like, there might be moments which you kind of forget about that. Like, okay, you're sitting on Shabbos afternoon, you're reading a book in your backyard, and there's a hangnail, and you're like, and you kind of like that. Those moments, okay, maybe the Yiras Shamayim is not as strong, but bring me that same person at Ne'ilah, and Yiras Shamayim is evident in their eyes. They would never do that at Ne'ilah.
It's amazing what you say, because you say, I'd rather my kids just take me more Hashem is the same. Like, when you are davening, if you respect me, it may be coming the ira. I know it's gonna go on.
So that's going to be where we're headed to. There's going to be times in which Emunah, Yira, and Ahava are going to be much more experienced by us and much more evident than other times. And that's, I think, what we're trying. I think where he's going. We'll see if you're right.
Sorry. If we have the ira of Hashem, we have temptation, so we will stop, right? Because He is there. Right. That's what most people.
Here we get to the great question. It's the song. We are believers, the sons and children of believers. We're ready to give up our lives. Now we are all ready to give up our lives for the Torah. Now you say, well, maybe I'm not. Well, you are. It's in your DNA. You are a descendant of Yitzchak Avinu and Avram, and you're willing to do that, to make the ultimate sacrifice. Right? We have that in each of us. And we're not always successful in stopping ourselves from sinning. So there's a little sticker that's on your cell phone that says, "Don't speak lashon hara." And how many of us are makpid mashmiras lashon in such a clear way? I want to get those stickers for our phones. They're great. So the Torah says, don't waste your life. Al tit ragez, al taneh, right? Right. Don't get upset. Don't respond to every insult. Sometimes we drop it, right? How about we don't fear God always? Or the idea of Chatasili Negdi Summit is David Melch says, my sin is always in front of my eyes. And we said not everyone believes in Hashem, not everyone loves Hashem. How is it possible there are people who actually don't fear and love and believe in God all the time? Maybe the biggest miracle that we witness in our lives. The greatest miracle in the world is that there are people who don't believe in God. It's the greatest nace in the world. When I say he says, how could it be? Because it doesn't make any sense. There are people who live in a world where they don't believe in Hashem. That's a nace. Because it's unnatural not to be aware of Hashem like that. Not to be afraid of him. Help us not to love Hashem. So nace hanikra b'lashon chazal. Teshes choshech v'yihi laila. This world, says the the Gemara Bava Metzia, this world is like a taste of, is like a drink of darkness. Tashes choshech v'yilayla, place of darkness, and it's not night. Olam hazeh is a night. Can't see as much. Because Baruch Hu kiviyachol kisas olam hazeh, he covers up this world b'samicha shel choshech, with a blanket, with a cover of darkness. V'derech nisna la'adam efsharut lo lahamin b'Hashem. He allows a lack of emun in the world. In other words, the greatest wonder is that God creates space for a lack of belief in God.
Well, that's free will.
That's what free will is. But even within free will, why would he create the notion of no emunah? Like you could like the concept. Yes, it's true, free will, but you can't. For instance, you can't will to fly, right? So does that mean you don't have free will? No, it means you can't fly. So why did God create the concept of not believing in Hashem?
Because if he forced everybody to believe in Hashem, if it was part of your nature, then you wouldn't have free will to do anything else, because you say, "Oh, Hashem's there." I mean, look, to some extent, all of us sometimes we don't listen to the Amunah. You know, we don't listen to our Amunah there. But if you didn't have the opportunity to not believe in Hashem, then you couldn't choose it.
Right. I think it's really good that he gives everyone the opportunity to choose.
I have a friend that she's atheist, so she doesn't believe in Hashem. Everything is because she was right. And always I'm telling the stories about Torah. The last time she told me, "Well, can you pray for a job for me?" And I say, "No, write a note what you want to say to Hashem, and I'm gonna put in that floor." Now she has a secretary at Oakland Community College, and she has a special place. And now I have to, not me, I just walk in. But now everybody has to make an appointment to talk to her. And one day I say, they should be making a point to talk to you. You're the one time. No, but at one month ago, I told her, remember when you asked me to pray for you? Here is the answer. Okay, so Adam Yori Bechoshech here in New York. Person goes, that's just kind of sad. Person goes in darkness into New York. Shol Mishu Echan Migdalei Atom. Where are the twin? When was this written?
No, he said, where are the
Twin Towers? Twin Towers, I have. Oh, they translate the Hebrew says Twin Towers.
Oh. What does it say there?
Empire State Building.
Kids that are low.
It says it was printed in 09.
Yeah, so this was written earlier.
That's before.
The Hebrew was written earlier.
Oh, really? The Hebrew was written.
It had to have been written before, and otherwise it says Twin Towers. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this was written. Tafshin Samach Zayin. So 367 plus 1240 is
367 plus 12.
What did you say?
13.
What did you say?
67.
1307.
2007. So
yeah, 2007.
This is 2007. So you still have.
That was first. This was 9.
But this is still post 9/11. Okay, but maybe what happened was this is a recording of a shir he gave earlier, and they just transcribed it. Okay, but where are the Twin Towers? Kids, how does he not see the Twin Towers? Or how does he not see the Empire State Building? It's darkness. You don't see what's in front of your face if it's dark. So in other words, what he's saying is sometimes obvious things are blind. We're blinded to them, not because they're not there, but because there's other circumstances. There's darkness that abounds, right? She's on.
Okay. Also, if you're not really looking for that, the darkness is there, and you're not really thinking to walk toward the light. It's not part of your thinking to think that Hashem is everywhere. That whole concept, like little kids, Hashem is everywhere, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think people who don't believe don't see that.
They don't know they're in darkness.
Right. They don't even know that they're in darkness.
So I think this big chiddush that it should be more surprising to us that people don't believe than people believe. That's quite a statement. That's an interesting one. So let's just round it off now with a little bit of Shabbos, then we'll over here, and then we'll complete this over here. Every day of the Bria, we say, and there was night and there was day one. Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, right? Shabbos. We get to Shabbos, and it says, and God completed it. The Bria wasn't finished on Shabbos, it was finished on the sixth day, at the night. The Rega Acharon, the Shabbos, right before Shabbos. And then we talked about on Shabbos, the things created right after that point in Ben Hashmashos. Remember, you were there, right? We talked about the things created right after, right before Shabbos itself, twilight. But the point is, right? That's what it should have said. And they were finished already by the night of the seventh of the creation. Shabbos ain't Laila, Hikul Yom, but there was no such thing as Laila of Shabbos. It's all day. It's the day of the night of Shabbos, the day of the day of Shabbos. Shabbos is called Yom. Why is Shabbos always called a Yom? Because it's all light. The Chumash, Hamusag, Leil Shabbos. We don't have a notion of Leil Shabbos in Chumash. That's a modern day linguistic reality. We don't say Leil Shabbos in ancient times. Rak over Yom HaShabbos. Yom HaShabbos. Today's Yom HaShabbos. Tonight, the nighttime is Yom HaShabbos. Motzimana b'chazal, kam makamos lein Yom Tov. K'sheksu v'torah hamilim b'yom, pish b'yom v'lo laila. By Yom Tov, it means day. Come shofar of lulav. You do the shofar a day, lulav a day. When Shabbos, because it would be Yom HaShabbos, lo yivdilu chazal ben Yom Laila. Chazal never distinguished between night and day, but Shabbos. Ki osa smicha shel choshech shmechases Hashem Yisparach mitanu b'yomot hachol Shabbos hinwanenu. Because there is nothing covering up our eyes on Shabbos. It's all light. It's all day. Zeu Yom Shekula or V'nitin Limtzo Hashem Yisparach Chol Makom. It's the day that is all light. So biblically, we never find a description of a Leil Shabbos, of an evening, of a night of Shabbos. That doesn't exist. Also interesting how the holier of the Kiddushes of Shabbos is the nighttime, whereas the holier of the Yontif is the daytime. So it's another interesting reality. Also the fact that Adam and Chava, when they were in Gan Eden, they had all light. That's why the first time they ever saw darkness was Motzei Shabbos, and they were terrified. The Medrash says they rubbed two rocks or sticks together and they made the first Havdalah. Why? They were ousted from Gan Eden. They didn't see any light. Why didn't they have darkness Friday night? Friday night, there was no darkness. There was no need. It was all light.
They were in Gan Eden?
Yeah.
In Erev Shabbos?
They're in Gan Eden for the whole Shabbos.
For the whole Shabbos.
And they got kicked down once
Hashem created dark and light, it says.
Yeah, but Shabbos, but it's Shabbos anomaly. There is no darkness in Shabbos, he's saying. Shavuos yom yuchad lekach. Imu chape simcha. So Shavuos is the day that we find simcha for Torah. Hazman yuchad lekach chag HaSukkos. So simcha is Sukkos. Torah is for Shavuos. Hazman is zochem lacharot. Lecheros, freedom is Pesach. If you're struggling with addiction, Pesach is a great time. Chapsim is Hashem Yisparach. And if you're looking for Hashem, Hazman l'ntzoso Shabbos. So Yom Shabbat Kisui Shachoshech, the cover of darkness is pulled away from our eyes. Nosin Efsharosim, given the possibility that anything I don't see, it's impossible that I don't see God on Shabbos. The possibility of heresy does not exist on Shabbos, he claims. What does it mean to find Hashem? And then with this, we'll conclude for the day. For days that you daven with kavana, someone in the family is sick, you daven with all your heart to have them find the healing. You need $10,000 desperately. You daven for that. So you could bet on your favorite horse. What do you think when you close your eyes and you daven from Hashem with all your heart? Give me the wealth I need. Give me the health I need, right? Mm-hmm. So, or the stealth I need. Who? Anything else that rhymes? So who? Mitchanein. Oi, Rebbe Shalom, Master of the world. Ani kol kach rotze sheyeh. I need to be healthy. Ani kol kach tzarich le'aser selfim dollar. I need the $10,000. Cha'emes usho safas hargashos kamash rotzim adavar yikre. Zuener tefillah b'chavana. It's not tefillah b'chavana. Tosefes kavana v'tefillah hi kasher mosifin divrei harach l'klapav yisparach. What is the extra level of tefillah? We spoke about this at length in the previous sefer. Is when you realize that only God can help you. What's it like? You go to a wealthy person, you ask for $10,000 loan. If you ask, don't you know how much I need this? Maybe you'll say, I can't do it. Ask someone else. But you ask again. I've tried everyone. You're my last resort. Remember this idea, this concept of being my last, right? Rakata chutz mizeh. If no one else, if you don't have a good heart at this point, I have no one to go. And except for you're my very, very best friend. You love me. I have no one else to go to. I've exhausted my language. Zui tosefes kavanah. This is the extra kavanah that's required. Tefillah. Midabrim im Hashem, mitragshim kama anusovu. We speak to Hashem. And we feel how much we burden. Zui nenu kavanah. It's not kavanah. Ad miyotzi derechov. Omer kol kach harbe mechoniot yafa madua li yesh kazu gruta. There's so many nice cars. Why do I have this lousy one? I don't know what gruta is. What's a jalopy? Zuinu kavana, that's not the kavana. Ach, but if you say Rosh Hashanah, Atatov Meitiv, Rav Chesed Nosen Ge'el Mechonid Yafod, Haim Ein Lecha Mechonid Yafod Gamavri. Don't you have anything else in your storehouse for me? A nice Aston Martin or take a right Maserati. Him Adam Medaber El Hashem Kidaber Ish Oreu. If you spoke to Hashem like you spoke to your friend Ish Yod Luchashiv Yamitud, Chaim Nasim Pashin Yiflaim, Tam Yesh Im Mila Daber. I need you to help me out. I have nowhere else to turn. That idea would ingrain Amunah B'Hashem in us. So again, we haven't really developed this idea yet fully, but Shabbos is the time in which the darkness is removed from the world, so we all see the truth. And yes, it's true, there are people with temporary moments in which Amunah B'Hashem is suspended, in which faith in God is it's just because there's darkness. There's other factors blocking us. On Shabbos, we don't have that obstacle. And so the Amunah, the Ava, Nira should be Mukhrach. And that's the gift of Shabbos. And we'll talk about that as we go further in this statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ramesh, everyone should feel well.